We're just about a month away from Sun Devils basketball. And we're going to talk about everything you need to know about the team on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thanks, as always, for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Wherever you get your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. And, of course, you can stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36, the podcast at LO_Sun Devils, and, as always, special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Today's episode is brought to you by JCASE Medical. Empower yourself when you get a JCASE, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's Jace, J-A-S-E medical.com. We're switching gears. We haven't talked about basketball in a minute. And with under a month left to go until our first game of the year, which will be November 8th, playing at Mississippi State, it feels like a good time to start preparing to talk about basketball. Feels like a good time to kind of introduce the 2023-24 Arizona State Sun Devils team, led by the one and only Bobby Hurley, with a lot of new faces through the transfer portal, but also some very important players that are returning to the program as well. And I think that's where we're going to start our conversation, is talking about the guys who are returning. Of course, the conversation has to start with Jamiya Neal. Neal is one of the most important players for the Sun Devils heading into this season. He is just a certified stud, man. Like, you look at everything that he was able to do towards the end of last season, where he just took off and became a borderline superstar for the team. Last year, he ended up averaging 4.9 points per game in 16.2 minutes, but also really important to consider what he was doing over the final stretch of the year for the team. He was, how many points did he have? 16 points in the play-in game against Nevada, 11 points against U of A in the Pac-12 tournament, 9.7 points. He was quiet in our March Madness game against TCU with only 5 points, but he was just so tuned in when he was on the court and he was getting those opportunities. So I'm really excited to see what he can do this year. This is a guy that I truly believe is going to become a superstar for the Sun Devils. He's a sophomore. Not a sophomore. I was looking at the wrong person. He's a junior, 6'6", 185. He's that kind of crossover between like the forward and the guard. They're going to be able to line him up all over the place, and someone that's going to be able to take advantage of multiple different looks. I think that he can shoot it deep just as easily as he can play inside the paint or anywhere inside of the arc. This is a very good basketball player. Someone that, not to overreact, but I do think that there is potential for an NBA future with Jamiya Neal. Certainly there is a pro level for him, whether it's G League or Euro or wherever. I think that there is going to be a place for Jamiya Neal to continue his professional basketball career following his time with Arizona State. Next guy that's really important to talk about is Frankie Collins. Collins is going to be running the point for the team this year. He was more or less that guy last year. The problem was he wasn't necessarily a massive point scorer for the team. 9.7 points per game, despite playing 27.9 minutes per game. There's work to be done with Frankie, but I think that this is going to be a really nice stepping stone for him to help continue moving forward and being a good player for the team. I really like Frankie Collins, and if he's able to be a little more consistent as a point scorer, then I think that I wouldn't go the sky's the limit, but I do think that this is going to be a very good player for the team. He's good defensively. He's good running the point and calling the offense, calling the defense. I really like what Frankie brings to the table for you. Now it's just a matter of making sure that he's able to take that next step and not so much become a facilitator of the game, but somebody who takes command of the game. Another guy that is important to mention, and it's no secret if you've been following the podcast for a while, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of this player, but he is returning to the team. He's going to be an important piece of the team, and that's Alonzo Gaffney. Gaffney has been with the team each of the last 2 seasons after transferring from Ohio State previously. Last year, averaging 3.2 points per game in just under 17 minutes. He is the definition of a depth player, of a six-man or off the bench guy, but he is very likely looking at least to start the year, a starting position for the team as one of the forwards. He is just so inconsistent. And I want to really buy into Alonzo Gaffney, but the problem is his output is just not there game to game, minute to minute. He's not the greatest shooter in the world. Last year, he shot 35.3%, which was a massive drop from the 43.4% that he was shooting the previous year. He's not a three-point guy. He was 23.3% last year, 30.6% the year prior. So he just took a dramatic drop-off from what he was doing his first year to what he did in his second year. If you get closer to what you got his first year with Arizona State, then obviously you're going to be much happier with that. But I'm not sure if we can fairly anticipate him to get to that point. I'm not sure what the expectation should be for Alonzo Gaffney heading into the year. I do feel like he's going to end up being a starter for the team, at least to start the season. And then who knows? Potentially you see some guys kind of phase him out. I know that with the Sun Devils, they don't necessarily run your traditional starting five. They don't necessarily have 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. They like to use a lot of small play and have small ball and have a lot of their guards out there. They were doing that last year when they had Collins, when they had Cambridge, when they had both Cambridges, Desmond Cambridge, Devin Cambridge. They brought Austin Nunez in a lot. Jamiya Neal, kind of that crossover. He's the closest thing to a forward that was consistently seeing the court for the team. So I don't know that Gaffney is going to be a full-time starter for the whole year. Like I said, and just to really emphasize, I think he kind of comes into that as somebody that has that role initially, but who knows how that ends up playing out in the long term. There's a lot of guys here on the Sun Devils team that are going to be competing for a lot of playing time this year. And there's so many new faces that are coming in, both through the transfer portal and the freshman class, that are going to be giving him and the rest of these guys a hard time as well for their playing time. We're going to talk about them in just a moment. Before we get that far, though, I want to let you guys know about our friends over at JCASE Medical. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world today, and it's important to be prepared for hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, and more that can lead to supply chain shortages for medications or the inability to get the medications you need in a timely manner. The JCASE provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get a JCASE is to fill out a simple online form and, in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of our board-certified physicians. Ongoing care from our physicians and any treatment-related questions is there as well, and it's doctor-created and doctor-recommended. Don't get caught unprepared. Everyone should be empowered to take care of themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. JCASE has everything from online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation care. So go to jacemedical.com and enter the code Locked On at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code Locked On at jacemedical.com, spelled JASE medical.com. Also want to talk to you about our good friends over at FanDuel. Jump back into to the NFL action right now. If you go to FanDuel and you bet $200, or excuse me, you get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide variety of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. But I also got to let you know to tune in to the Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday. They go live on 11 a.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. College Football Kickoff Live covers playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and goes in depth like only Locked On can, including insight analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern on any Locked On College YouTube channel. You won't want to miss it. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the new names, new faces to the Sun Devils basketball program. Now, it's a lot. Similar to last year, but even more so. There is a lot of transfers that are coming in. And it was needed because the Sun Devils lost a lot of players from last year. Desmond Cambridge Jr., Marcus Bagley, Devin Cambridge, Warren Washington, Austin Nunez, DJ Horn, Duke Brennan, Enoch Bache. That's a lot of faces and players to replace. Luther Muhammad also in there. That is so much of what you had last year. So much. I mean, you're talking about 4 starters that are gone. Marcus Bagley, and yeah, all your depth. Luther Muhammad and Austin Nunez, Duke Brennan, Enoch Bache. There's a lot of replacing that the Sun Devils have to do this year. Thankfully, they went really hard in the transfer portal. They brought in some guys that are going to start themselves off in very good situations. The first guy that is noteworthy for more reasons than one is Adam Miller. Miller is coming in from LSU. Last year, a pretty successful year for them. Not necessarily the greatest field goal shooter with 33.6% from the field, 31.6% from deep. He was a pretty good free throw shooter at 82.9%, averaging 11.5 points per game. He was definitely a volume shooter for the team, and he was averaging 33 minutes for LSU. The reason why he's such an interesting situation is because he may or may not be eligible to play this year because he is a second-time transfer. He had previously played at Illinois, and there's a lot of doubt that he's going to be able to play this year, which is just one more thing that is really frustrating about the NCAA is the ridiculous amount of power that they have over these guys. You know, we've talked about it with our football players. Now we're seeing it with the basketball team. Not having Adam Miller would really, really stink. But if he's not able to go, I mean, they were able to get some other players to be able to substitute in for them. One of those guys being Jose Perez. Perez is going to be transferring in from West Virginia. He is he's been all over the place. He was with oh goodness, what is that? Marquette. He was with Manhattan. In his career in total, he's averaging 15.1 points per game. He's coming from West Virginia. I don't know what he did for them last year. I don't have it listed here for me, but he's been all over the place, and he's going to come to Arizona State more than likely as one of the starting guards right now, should Adam Miller not be able to go. They recently picked him up, probably in preparation for Miller to not be able to go, but again, unfortunately, we just got to be able to cross that bridge when we get to it. Another LSU player who comes to us is Shawn Phillips Jr. He is a sophomore for the team, 7-footer, 245 pounds. That's your big man. He's going to be starting for the team because you lost all 3 of your big men from last year. Phillips is going to be plug and play, which is a little bit scary because he was a part-time player at best for LSU last year. In 20 games, he was averaging 7.5 minutes a game and just 1.4 points per game. So it's going to be interesting to see how he gets involved. I definitely feel like this is one of the guys that's more important to the future of the team rather than somebody that you're anticipating having a massive impact in year one. He feels like one of your building blocks because with all the transfers that are coming in, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot of players that kind of get rotated in and out. And there's a lot of big guys that are interesting here. Kamari Lands coming from Louisville is another guy, averaged 5.9 points last year in 21.1 minutes per game. Zane Meeks is coming from San Francisco. He was a lot more productive of a player than some of the other big men on this team. 10.9 points per game. He was averaging 20.9 minutes per game. Again, coming from San Francisco. I think he's going to be on the court a lot. I feel like he's someone that's going to really push Alonzo Gaffney for a starting role for the team as one of the forwards. Would not be surprised if he was like their big man, though. Obviously, you love the 7-footer with Shawn Phillips, but I'm just so curious to see what the game plan is for them and what they're looking to incorporate out of him. Is he going to be a 25-plus minute player, or is he going to be closer to 15 minutes and they just rotate a lot of guys in? That's where I'm curious with it. Brycen Long is another really important player to bring up. Last year was averaging 14.8 points per game over at Houston Christian. He's going to be one of the key depth pieces for the team. As a senior, I feel like that's kind of the direction they're going. For what it's worth, Gilbert, Arizona kid, so, activate the Valley with the basketball team. Really interested there. One of the guys that I am most excited about, who this is a really polarizing player because he's a JUCO kid, and the production that he put together at Tallahassee Community College is ridiculous. But you also wonder what the learning curve is going to be, and that's Malachi Davis. Davis, in the 2 games that Tallahassee Community College played in their version of the tournament, of their little March Madness, 40 points a game. Dude was absolutely bananas and throwing up points like it was nothing. Like, he was just going crazy. What's his role going to be? That's really complicated, I think, because you've got really good guards. You've got Frankie Collins, you've got Jose Perez and Adam Miller, if he is able to go. Jamiya Neal's kind of that weird guy. Kamari Lands, Brycen Long. It's interesting, I suppose. And then you got 3 freshmen that are coming in. Akil Watson is your 4-star coming in at the forward spot. Guard Braylon Green, 3-star, and then Andrew Mayock, who I could not find a ranking for him. Those are your freshmen that are coming in. I would not anticipate any of them really to have significant roles on this team, just with all of the transfers that are coming in to be able to provide depth and veteran play for the team. I just don't know how much we're really going to be able to see them on the court this year. Obviously, Akil Watson as a 4-star could potentially play his way onto the court to a significant spot, but I don't really know how much I would be counting on that personally. I think that these guys are definitely the future of the team, but I think that it's going to be a lot more on the juniors and seniors and transfers that are going to be the main guys who lead the Sun Devils in the 2023-24 season. Passion, drive, patience. It's what brings home the winning trophy and is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. We're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up here, talking about the outlook for the team and the potential starters. But before we get that far, I just want to thank you guys again for tuning in. Remember, wherever you get your podcast, to hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Outlook for the team. I personally think that this is more than a quality enough team to be able to get back to the tournament. There's a lot of questions. And what you saw last year with your transfer class is going to be difficult to replicate. You had 4 transfers come in and be full-time starters for the team. Desmond Cambridge, Devin Cambridge, Frankie Collins, and Warren Washington were all full-time starters for you for the vast majority of the year. That is going to be incredibly difficult to replicate. And you almost caught lightning in a bottle with it. And it's so unbelievably difficult to envision that happening more than once. I don't know that you necessarily have the terrific electric plays that you had with some of those guys, but I do think that you will be able to find some good production from them. And it helps that you've got a guy like Jamiya Neal and a guy like Frankie Collins coming back that have the familiarity with the team, that have the familiarity with their teammates and with the coaching staff. I think that's going to be really important. If Frankie Collins takes a step forward as a shooter and as a point scorer, they're going to be a dangerous team. Even if he doesn't, as long as he can still run the point and be the play caller and all that good stuff, I think you take it. You want to see Jamiya Neal turn into the potential superstar that I think that he can be, and a lot of other people think that he can be as well. Jamiya Neal takes that step forward, you've got yourself one of the best kept secrets in the Pac-12. Somebody that can be a massive difference maker for your team and hopefully get you to that next point. From there, it's so many transfers you're looking at. Jose Perez is going to be a starter if Adam Miller is not ready to go. If Adam Miller is, you can plug him in. We'll see what happens there. Ball's in your court, NCAA. It is what it is, I suppose. Shawn Phillips, really interesting as the center. He just didn't have a lot of time last year, so I don't know if we should anticipate him to be a full-time starter or see a lot of rotation going in with a guy like Zane Meeks, but cross that bridge when you get to it, I suppose. And then, what do you do with Zane Meeks? He was pretty productive with San Francisco last year. You got Brycen Long coming in from Houston Christian. You got Kamari Lands from Louisville. There's the freshman guys. There's a lot of different things going on. Malachi Davis from Tallahassee Community College. With so many different things going on, so many potential cooks in the kitchen, is this going to work out or is this going to be a rough year? That's where I am most interested to see is how quickly is this all going to come together? Is it going to come together? Not sure. All I know is you're in the Pac-12 and you've got some tough opponents to play. You got U of A, you got UCLA, USC, Oregon. There's really good teams in the Pac-12 that you're going to have to find a way to beat. I think that ASU in a best case scenario is still in that second tier, and that's not a bad thing at all. I just don't see them ready to take the step to becoming one of the best teams in the Pac-12. I do think that they're good enough to be able to get back to the tournament. At a minimum, get to the play-in again. It's going to be dependent on Jamiya Neal and Frankie Collins. If they take their steps forward, it's hard to envision a scenario where ASU has a losing season because I think they've got that much potential. Add in what you could potentially get out of your transfers, you got really good upside here for a quality basketball team. The question will be, was last year a fluke? Was last year lightning in a bottle? And if it was, can you do it again? That is my overall preview of the basketball team. We'll be incorporating more basketball, more basketball conversation and content as we get closer and closer to the season. We're under a month away. Again, opening game is at Mississippi State, November 8th, The first home game of the year will be against Texas Southern. Be there. Give these guys the energy they need. But let me know what you guys think about the Sun Devils basketball team in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter as well at Richie Brads 36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Tomorrow, we'll be going through our 3 keys to victory for ASU's game in Seattle this weekend against Washington. One of those, of course, being pray. But I'll see you tomorrow. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.